לך ולכל האנשים היקרים שבזכותם אני עומד על הבמה הזאת. אנחנו אוהבים אתכם, תעשו לו כפיים. אני אוהב אותך. אני לא יכול להודות לך לעולם, אני רק אתן לך חיבוק. נפל עליך. תודה. תודה. אני חייב לתת לכם המעגל סגור שלנו לעבוד. תודה. עושים לראות את הסוף כאהובים וכנראה שאנחנו בזכות טוביה יש דברים יפים מאוד.
Great energy in that clip, and I assure you that after listening to this podcast, you will go back and watch it repeatedly, and you will read those English subtitles very, very carefully again and again, and you will get goosebumps every time. This is an extraordinary story of the motivation of Dr. Tuvia Book, who fought to be permitted to serve as a combat medic in the recent war with Gaza at age 55, and he wrote a book about it too, which we discuss. It's the story of incredible medical innovation practiced by IDF search and rescue teams, which Tuvia Book's book describes in detail. And it's a story about one man, an actor, a rock star, like for real, whose life was saved by Dr. Tuvia Book and the team of superheroes working in the IDF's Elite Search and Rescue Unit, 669. I'm Vivian Berkovich, former Canadian ambassador to Israel. Let's do this. So nice to see you again so soon after we spoke last time. You're now familiar to our viewers, listeners, but this time you're in Israel and as I can see in uniform. Thanks for joining State of Tel Aviv and Beyond today.
It's a pleasure.
Since you returned, I know you've been serving in the reserves and in the Gaza Strip. What we're really going to focus on today, though, is the book you've written. Before we get into the book, what I'd like to do is just talk a bit about the unit to which you're attached, that you work with, and the really extraordinary accomplishments in terms of true life-saving that your unit managed during the previous 2.5 years in the Gaza war. So tell us about the unit that you're in.
Okay, I'm in a unit which is called the Palmar, which is a Hebrew for, which is a bit of a mouthful, basically means a combat medical extraction unit. And our unit's job is to go in like the cavalry and save wounded soldiers in the front lines. And our symbol, which you can see on my arm here, is a horse like the cavalry, and inside the horse, there's the medical snake inside as well. So each unit has got embedded combat medics and paramedics sometimes, and sometimes doctors. And when they come under fire, they're treated immediately at the scene. And then we come in and we basically represent the open door to the hospital. Now, if the soldiers are seriously wounded, we work with our sister unit called Shishish Tesha, which is the air and rescue unit of the Air Force. We bring in Black Hawk helicopters. We get them out of the field. If they're moderately or lightly wounded, we take them in our ambulances to the two closest hospitals to the Gaza Strip, depending on which part of the strip the battle is. And the incredible thing is, which makes my unit unique, is it was constructed, it was built up, conceptualized after the last Gaza campaign back in 2014, when too many soldiers were dying because of the time it was taking to get them from the front line to the hospital bed. So what we have done is we've broken what's called the golden hour, where from the moment they're wounded to an OR, it takes less than an hour. And people once thought that was impossible, but we have shown that we can do it, just like people once thought a sub 4 minute mile was impossible. We've done it.
So just to be clear for our viewers, you are Dr. Tuvia Book, but not a medical doctor. That's the PhD. And the story of the extraordinary work with which you've been involved for many years now, but in particular the last 2.5 years, became something of a public thing, a moment, when you went to a concert in Jerusalem. Tell us what happened.
Okay, sure. So again, my doctorate is in education, but I'm a combat medic from the IDF. And when you finish the combat medics course, just like when you finish medical school, you swear an oath to to basically try and save anyone, regardless of faith, religion, gender, whatever it is. So everyone's treated equally by us. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or whatever, or famous or not famous, because everyone represents obviously a universe. So in January of 2024, literally a few months after the war started, we were called in for a mass casualty event into Gaza Strip, where a combat engineer unit called in Hebrew Undersakravit had suffered a vast amount of casualties, simply unfortunately because of what we call friendly fire, or eshkochot, which is accounts about 1 in 5 of our casualties, by the way, because war is pandemonium and chaos. It's definitely not slow motion and classical music. And this particular unit had a lot of explosives, and they were about to go into a tunnel. And unfortunately, an Israeli tank shell exploded a bit too close to them and triggered all the explosives off. So by the time we got there, it was a scene from hell. There was literally bodies all over the place. 2 severely wounded soldiers, and we got to one of them, and he wasn't breathing, he wasn't conscious, and we also unrecognizable. His whole face was blackened by the explosion. His dog tags had been ripped off. He was just lying on his back, and one of our doctors found a slight pulse, and we just literally were all over him. We're giving him real blood, which is one thing our unit does. We don't use plasma substitute. We actually use real blood, O negative. Desperately trying to open his airway, and the rescue helicopter came in and took the other wounded soldier out, but our particular soldier wasn't stable. We didn't know who he was. We just wrote on his forehead, anonymous, 25, 26, as we thought how old he was. Another helicopter was in the area waiting to land, but we couldn't let them land because he wasn't stable. And eventually the third helicopter landed. It was a huge helicopter. It's what they call a Sikorsky or Yasur, landed just to take him, because we were artificially pushing air into his lungs, like with an ambush suction, even though he was still unconscious. And that's the state he was evacuated from the field. And we found out only the next day that the soldier who we'd actually saved and evacuated, A, he wasn't 27, he was 37. And B, was one of Israel's best-known reserve soldiers, Idan Amedi, who also plays Sagi in the Fauda series, and also is a very well-known singer.
We're going to pause here and show an IDF video featuring the unit with which Tuvia Book works. IDF Elite Search and Rescue Unit 669. And the video you're about to see is from January 4th on the battlefield in Gaza. This gives you a glimpse of the incredible bravery of all those involved. Now, back to Dr. Tuvia Book, who continues to discuss Idan Amedi and his recovery.
Anyway, so it took him about 1.5 years to recover. And when he'd fully recovered, amongst other things, he had about 18 broken bones in his dominant hand, which is his guitar playing hands. He said he was going to do a concert. And just so you understand, within 10 minutes, 30,000 tickets were sold. That's how popular he is, like Beatles level of fame. So I decided, because we got a lot of free tickets in the army for different concerts I was going to go to hear him sing. A, his music's great anyway, but B, I felt a bit of a personal connection, even though he didn't know who I was because he was unconscious. And so I found myself last August in Jerusalem at an Idan Amedi concert.
Beautiful venue, too. Gosh, I wish I'd been there.
Right on the old city
I'm never
wall.
here in August. So you're at this concert, and did someone at some point during the concert bring to the attention of Idan Amedi that you were actually there?
Well, this is the mystery. So I took this photo before the event happened of Idan Amedi singing over here at the bottom with a projected on the stage. And in the middle of the concert, he got up and he said, Mishahu Amali, someone told me. That's exactly the word he used. In the middle of the concert, the Chovesh who saved me is, the medic who saved me is actually at the concert. Can he identify himself? So, I'm not a medic who saved him. I'm part of a big team. I'm just like a smaller part of this big team. I was looking around thinking, wow, he must mean me. So I just put up my hand, and then he came running down the stage, as you can see in my book, gave me a huge bear hug, and he whispered into my ear, "What's your name?" He didn't even know what my name was. So I told him it was Tuvia. This was in front of thousands of people at the concert, and also it was live streamed, so like hundreds of thousands of people saw it. Later on, it went viral, so millions of people now have been exposed to this clip. And he got up and said, "Tuvia, I want to thank you." The exact thing he said, I wrote it on my book here, is, "Tuvia, to you and all the dear people of the IDF rescue units, thanks to I can stand to this stage. We love you." And that particular moment and the hug just went absolutely viral. The next day I was interviewed in every single Israeli TV station. And also the people of Geffen Publishing contacted me and said, "We want you to write a book about your units and how you ended up saving Idan Amedi and who you are." And so this thing really became absolutely massive. It got to the stage and just walking down the streets in Israel or just going to get stuff done. "Ah, you're the medic that saved Idan Amedi?" Because without a doubt, I would say he's one of the most popular Israelis right now. If he ran for prime minister, he would definitely win the next election.
Yeah, well, he's smart enough not to do that. But
Exactly.
I mean,
And he's honest. So
yeah, exactly. So, but I think that one of the reasons too, he's huge and he's so incredibly talented. But in my view, the country was so moved by his tenacity. I mean, that he
it'll-
came back against all odds. As you I can't even remember how many bones you said and were broken in his dominant hand. What was it? 18, 20 or
yeah.
something?
There's a lot
Yeah.
of small bones in the hand.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, and that he's able to, fight back, and his rehab was not a picnic.
No, he
Uh,
was in Shibai. It took him a long time.
yeah, it's extraordinary. So thank you for all the great work that you and your team have been doing over the years and continue to do, because my understanding is that you're back in the Gaza Strip serving in reserve duty again, right?
That's why this is the 10th time we've been called up. This is an open-ended call-up. The actual call-up paper said it's until 2099. Let's hope it's not that long. It basically means that we're there as long as they need us. And the incredible thing is that people keep coming back time and time again. And just like with Idan Amedi, even after the rehab of the contest, he went back into the army. It's just absolutely incredible. So, and he's married, he's got 2 kids, he's very famous. If he wanted to, he's at the tail end, he's like the late 30s. He could get out of it. But if everyone said Mishu Acher, let someone else do, we wouldn't have a country, we wouldn't have an army. So that's what's amazing about our unit, where people just keep coming back time and time again. And it's always not convenient. People leaving behind spouses and children and work and studies. And there's a girl in my unit who I just had a chat with last week, also a combat medic, who's getting married in 3 weeks. Her wedding's in 3 weeks, and she's still there in Olive Green in the army, because people just put their personal lives to one side. And in my opinion, that's a definition of heroism, just selflessness.
It's extraordinary. It really is. And I might as well mention at this point, because it's timely and appropriate, that you're going to be in the Strip during the Passover holiday. I'm not sure it's going to be much of a holiday in Israel, but in any event, you put your hand up to go in and serve, which of course allows other people to be with their families, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's something very emotional and symbolic about being the festival of freedom, Chag HaChirut, with the modern Maccabees. Let's not forget, for almost 2,000 years, a Jewish soldier was an oxymoron since the Bar Kokhba revolt of the 2nd century. But with the advent of modern Zionism, Jews once again farm our land, Jews once again defend the land, and Jews once again speak our ancestral language in our ancestral land as well. We really have made the desert bloom. So it's definitely something very symbolic about being in the IDF with my brothers and sisters on the Festival of Freedom.
I want to go from the very poetic, metaphorical, beautiful, inspirational to something just a little more kind of, toughless, bottom line, down to earth. So I wanted to just kind of, I wanted to really focus like a laser on the battlefield. You're there, you come upon someone like Idan Amedi or other people who are gravely injured, and just explain, if you would, kind of the triage process, how important speed is, because my understanding is that the IDF has really implemented some extraordinary innovations in the battlefield in terms of, blood supplies and other things that people like you have with them and available that save lives. The other thing I wanted to ask you while you're addressing that, if you wouldn't mind, is I think you said that the blood supply that you take in with you is O negative. And my understanding is that O positive is the most common blood type. Am I mistaken in that?
Well, O negative is only about 10% of people, and it's universal donor. And everyone always says, what can we do in Israel? I can tell you straight away, if you are O negative, the first thing you should do when you land in Israel, or as an Israeli who lives in Israel, is donate O negative every 3 months. That's what we take with us. We take climate controlled O negative blood in like freezer packs, and every 2 weeks we have to discard it, whether we used it or not. So we always need it, and it literally saves lives. What helped save Idan Amedi was he got 8 units of real blood. Every other military in the world uses a plasma substitute, which is just the white blood cells, where to give them actual blood really speeds tremendously the process of healing. One of the many innovations we use.
So pause there for a moment. If O negative is only prevalent in 10% of the population, why is it the supply that you rely on?
It's called a universal donor. And that means
I
it doesn't matter what your blood type is, everyone can receive O negative. Whether you're AB, O positive, whatever you are, you don't have time in the fields. Sometimes it's a matter of seconds to start checking
Right.
people's blood types. So everyone just gets O negative.
Okay, well, I would donate, except I'm not O negative, so that
Well,
tastes
I
good.
am. So every 3 months, I get a reminder on the phone, come and donate. And so it literally saves lives.
Okay, so you're in the field, you come upon someone, how do you assess them in that contest? You check.
So what saves the lives are 3 things. One is the speed, obviously. 2 is the technology we're using. And 3, of course, is the professionalism of the medical crew as well. So speed is obviously the essence. So if someone has a blocked airway, if you don't not unblocking the airway within minutes, they're going to be permanently brain damaged anyway. So that's a super important thing to stop immediate, like arterial or life-threatening bleeding. Because it doesn't matter what else you do if they bleed out in seconds, because if an artery's gone, then it's pumping out at a huge speed. So you have to stop the arterial bleeding, you have to unblock the airways. So really, between you and me, it's the first 3 minutes that really count. What you do in the first 3 minutes is going to define life and death. Before you even start any of that, we always learn traditionally ABC, to check the airway, the breathing, the circulation. But in the military, especially where we are, there's also the S that has to come first, which is safety. There's treating someone if you're going to end up getting killed. So you have to be in a safe zone to start the ABC. And the first thing you're checking again are these life-threatening, in other words, airway and bleeding. That's the first things you're checking. So we have to strip the soldiers very quickly. We have these incredible scissors that basically shear everything off because you can't miss bleeding. You could be lying on bleeding, anything like that. So that's the first thing we do. We have this very fast triage process going on, and there's multiple medical crew. There's doctors, there's paramedics, there's combat medics. There's also combat troops, because sometimes if it's a hot extraction zone, we need to have a defensive perimeter around us as well. So that's the unit itself. We've been treating people literally under fire. Sometimes the units inside the strip bring the wounded soldier who's already been treated by their embedded medical crew to the border. We can pick them up at the border as well. So those are 2 ways of extraction. Either they bring them to us at the border, or we go in and extract them, depending on the circumstances. So that's one thing. Speed is very important. Now, as far as medical technology, it's almost like Star Wars, the stuff I'm about to tell you. It's just like people can't even imagine this type of technology. So for one, besides using the O negative blood, we also record everything. We have a form, but it's not written on paper. It's like this size, the size of like this book here, and it's like an iPad. So there's one person whose job it is to be writing everything down, what the treatment levels are, is being recorded into this form. This information is getting beams to the helicopter coming in, and also beams to the final destination hospital. So they can see real time where the treatment is, because the process is continuous. The treatment process is not, we're going to just wait till they get to hospital and then treat them. The whole way they're being treated, whether it's in the helicopter, whether it's in the ambulance, and the next stop can always follow. So a quick example of that is we were once treating someone who had a severe pain, and we gave him the morphine, and it wasn't enough. We had to give him ketamine, and just then the helicopter were coming in 10 seconds. So you can't say to the helicopter, wait, because these are Black Hawk helicopters. They're not armed. They only could be on the ground for about 25 seconds. But they saw where we were with the treatment. So as soon as the helicopter landed, the vein was already open. We rushed the patient on the stretcher to the helicopter. And as soon as the door closed, the paramedic on the helicopter was ready with the next step, with the ketamine straight in, because they could see exactly where we were in our treatment. So this continuous treatment has really helped to save lives.
I just want to pause there for a moment and ask you this. That kind of incredible continuity, the seamlessness of treatment in such difficult, challenging war circumstances, is that an innovation that's been implemented since 2014 in the last war with Hamas?
Absolutely. The sheer amount, the speed and the efficiency. And there's a lot of other technology as well. We have fiber optic cables that go into throats to see where the blockage is. We have portable ultrasounds. I mean, the amount of technology that's being incorporated into medicine, plus the way that medicine itself is taught. We're trained. We have this unit, a volunteer medical team called FEM, or Frontline Emergency Medicine. And they come in and they train us a whole different way than we're traditionally trained in the army about speed, efficiency, medical care. So when we're not inside and actively treating patients, we're practicing all the time because, as I say, practice makes perfect.
You're going back into Gaza, I believe, on Sunday. And in fact, you actually had to fight to be permitted to go into combat in this war. Tell us what happened.
Okay, so I write about the introduction to my book, and basically what happened was that when the 7th October happened, everyone was like in shock and all sorts of emotions. My huge anger when the shots subsided, my huge emotion was of anger. I just could not believe this was happening. We have to stay, we have an army, this is after the show. What's going on here? My first question I asked is, what can I do? So one of the reasons why in my initial service I wanted to be a combat medic was because that is a profession for life. It's not just a military thing. And I'm a trained combat medic out of the army. In addition to reserves, I also worked on as MADA, also as an ambulance medic as well. My first thought was, what can I do? I'm a trained medic. I'm fit. Thank God, because my tour guiding, I'm running up and down mountains and whatnot. I need to get back in. So what did I do? I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. I went down to my basement, took out my old uniform that I had not worn since the Second Lebanon War. We're talking about 2006, 17 years previously. Put it on, still fits, don't hate me. And then I decided, okay, that's it. I'm going to go and see what I can do. And just then I heard a rumor that there was a base in the south. They were looking for medical combat personnel, doctors, paramedics, combat medics, because the army was going to have to respond and going to react, and they needed a lot of medical crew. So I found out where this base was, packed a sleeping bag and some clothes and toiletries, headed down there, got to the base. Back then I was 55 years old. I had not served in the military since I was 39 when I was in the Second Lebanon War. And I got to the Shin Gimel, the entrance gate, and the guard there said, do you have an emergency call-up? I'm like, nope. Do you have reserve call-up? I'm like, nope. And they said, well, you can't come in. Start negotiating. And to cut a long story short, without giving away too many military secrets, about 5 minutes later, I was inside the base, and as crazy as it sounds, I literally went from unit to unit and marketed myself. Hi, my name's Tuvia. I'm a combat medic. I've been to Gaza, I've been to Lebanon. I was in Givati. I worked on MADA. Take me. And after only an hour and a half, I found my unit called Palma Asaf. Asaf is the name of the commanding officer. And the doctor there interviewed me, so I knew my stuff. He saw, I think the word he used was my enthusiasm, and said, okay, we'll take you. Go to speak to Shadish, which is the army bureaucrats. And that's a whole different story. That took another day and a half to convince them, because the first thing they said was no. And that's how I got back in. I literally fought to fight.
Well, and it's a good thing you did. And I'm sure that there are many people who are alive today, thanks to the efforts and heroism of you and your team. And as we know, to save a life is to save a world. So it's quite an accomplishment that you live with and carry every day. And thank you so much for doing it. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. And I'd also like to take a shout out to the members of my team, the men and the women, the doctors, the religious, the secular, the left wing, the right wing, the Jews, the non-Jews, because once we put this uniform on, this is our great equalizer. We're there for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to save the lives of our holy soldiers. So thank you for having me, and thank you to allow to highlight the men and women of my unit who are all part of this team.
Amen to that. What an inspiring story and man. Dr. Tuvia Book's book is available on Amazon and in the finest bookstores in Israel and overseas, I'm sure. We include the cover and additional information in the show notes to this podcast. As you listen to this podcast, Tuvia Book is back in the Gaza Strip and will be throughout the week of Passover, saving lives. When this latest war broke out on February 28th, we made the decision at the Stick of Tel Aviv and beyond to open our content to all. The honeymoon, sadly, ends in the coming days. If you wish to continue accessing our podcasts and written content, then please consider becoming a premium subscriber, or you can make a contribution to Buy Me a Coffee. State of Tel Aviv and Beyond is an independent publication. We rely on your support to keep the lights on. Thanks, as always, for being here. Until next time, stay safe. We love hearing from you, so please comment on our website, stateoftelaviv.com, or send us a note to vivian@stateoftelaviv.com. That's VIVIAN@stateoftelaviv.com. And if you go to our website, stateoftelaviv.com, you can find the subscribe button and take it from there. Hope that you do that. On behalf of the State of Tel Aviv core team, Jan Zabo, our creative, graphic, visual, and marketing man, Amir White, producer and editor extraordinaire, sound guy, who is also impressively patient with me and my boomer tech deficiencies, and our social media manager who pitches in on everything. Thank you, Maya Naftalin. Thanks to the team, and thank you, listeners, for being here. Until next time, stay safe.